Howdy, folks. Happy Tuesday. It's weird because like every time there's like a short week, it discombobulates everybody. They forget like what day is what day.
Yeah, it does throw you. Like if you have a writing schedule, I have to basically double up everything because there's nothing happening Thursday.
Right.
Nothing's going to happen Friday. So now I got to get everything done by tomorrow.
Well, it's weird because the Leafs play in Buffalo on Friday afternoon. They play a road game in Detroit on Wednesday. And when I was up in Toronto yesterday, I found out that the Leafs are going to practice here on Thursday. So I have to go because if they're practicing here, it's an opportunity to get more interview, ask a couple questions, things of that nature. But it's Thanksgiving, and of course, in my household, I'm the sous chef and the prep person. So I'm gonna have to make sure like the turkey's in the oven before the time happens that the practice is. Just it's like
I'll be watching your timeline just in case.
Yeah, so we watch. Yes, yeah. By the way, it's like I love how people react when I post something on social media. My Facebook, I post my continuing annoyance of CBS and their utter frigging stupidity of showing B-roll of Niagara Falls during a Bills game.
You're not the only one. I saw a few people put that.
Right, and it's like, like, give it up, like, geez, is that all that you do is complain? Well, about this, yeah, because it's not friggin' Buffalo. That's why. So I'm sorry. It's like, it's ridiculous. If there's nothing to show about Buffalo, I mean, the funny thing was, like, the other B-roll that they showed was some indescript place that had turkeys walking around, like, because obviously Thanksgiving was coming up, and it's like turkeys running around in some backyard, and they're like squirrels walking around. I'm like, sorry, I'm not sure if I want to eat a turkey that is mingling with squirrels.
Yeah,
am I wrong? I don't know.
No. That's weird.
So they said that, and then, and of course, I said something today. Justin Bourne tweeted something about saying something like, it'll be funny to look at Leafs Twitter in a couple weeks when Sheldon Keefe benches William Nylander for like a bad defensive giveaway. And I said, well, negative plays deserve negative repercussions. Like it would be long overdue because we both, like, it's not saying that Nylander is not a talented player. It's not saying that he doesn't do a lot of good things. He also does a lot of bad things. And of course, I got the Nylanderites going after. What bad? What negative plays? Oh, he's been the second best player on the Leafs. I'm like, God, you guys are looking at this team through blue and white colored glasses. William Nylander is a talented player. His problem is that he doesn't play like a talented player all the time. He takes long vacations where he does bad things.
I'll tell you though, I was talking yesterday to a well-known player and scout about the lack of practice time, and it's real. It shows up because somebody like Nylander would be able to work on that in practice, but they practice once a week on average?
I mean, they've after their game.
I mean, a real practice, not just like a game, game skate or.
Well, no, like the last 2 days they've had full practices.
Okay.
Because there was a 3-day gap in the schedule.
But that's a rarity.
It's a rarity. Yeah. Now after like tomorrow they start 3 games in 4 nights, so there will be no practices.
Right.
And then I'll just say this: it's like Sheldon Keefe in the 2016 Calder Cup playoffs called out Nylander for bad defensive play in a post game of I think it was a conference final against Hershey, and benched him for like a long stretch in a period. It's not above Sheldon Keefe to do that. If he plays well, if he does what they're looking for, then he will get the rewards of playing on the line with Austin Matthews and getting opportunity. If he doesn't, he's going to get treated like everybody else, and that's the way he should be treated. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. So the Mets hired Bam Bam Meulens, Hensley Meulens, former Yankee, been out in San Fran. as their bench coach.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a young guy as my bench coach. I want a grizzled old veteran that has seen everything, heard everything, and is, like Don Zimmer was the perfect bench coach. I was talking about Don Zimmer with a scout today, as a matter of fact, and we both agreed that he is that guy that he used to get a little too stressed out as manager, but as a bench coach, he's perfect.
Right.
Because he could just, talk about situational baseball. Hey, there's this going on, that going on. When you get someone like Mullins, I'm sorry, he just hasn't experienced enough. And a good example is Carlos Beltran worked with him, and they wrote, of course, for a short time in 2011. I don't care what kind of coaching Mullins did under Bruce Bochy. Championships don't rub off in baseball like they do maybe in football. And even we see with that it's sort of waning a bit when you get somebody who's won a championship and you get, you know what I mean? Like that whole thing, I think a lot of that has died down in the NFL. But in baseball, I don't believe it at all. I don't care unless you were the manager that managed 2 championships, and I don't care. Like, I don't think it's going to help the Mets that Mullins sat there and coached a little. And, and he was a manager in the World Baseball Classic. Like, let's face it, he came cheap. We'll see what he does. But I was not thrilled with the hire.
Yeah, I'm surprised because, there was a lot of talk about Terry Collins and a few other names. And that
I'm happy that they didn't go back with Collins, only because, like, they've been there, done that. He's a good guy. But you know what? You do need a different voice. Again, we could talk about bench coach all we want. It's not that big of a job at the end of the day.
Yeah, but it does seem to be a stepping stone to a managerial job.
It is.
And Mullins was one of the finalists, as Beltran was, for the Yankees job a couple years ago. So
basically what Mullins could do is when Jeff Wilpon hands the analytics sheet, he could hand it to Mullins, and Mullins could hand it to Beltran, and he'll have his lineup, and then everybody will have touched it.
Well,
that's what's going to happen.
Hopefully Mullins will, after Wilpon leaves the room, ball it up and throw it in the toilet and flush it.
They won't.
But, okay. Funky Cold Zadina in the chat says there's a pumpkin spice Kit Kat. I hope you're lying there.
I'm going to research that right now.
Yeah, no, but Drew Fawcett says Kit Kat is introducing 4 new flavors: cola, cotton candy, chocolate cream pie, and orange creamsicle. Every single one of them sounds disgusting.
They really do. Like, can't they just leave it alone, man?
Funky says he's kidding. Okay, well.
All right.
Yeah, well, maybe by next October, it might be true.
It could be.
Okay. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, November 26, 2019. I'm
Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and I had to interrupt my taking a drink to say this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, everybody's talking about it. We have to start with this. In the wake of the Babcock firing and in the wake of the revelation that first came from Terry Koshan of the Toronto Sun that sort of blew up yesterday, where Mitch Marner was sort of shamed by Babcock about asking him to write a list of players who he thought were the ones who hustled the most to the laziest, and then he revealed it to the team. And it was basically it was meant to embarrass Marner, and thankfully, I think some of the Leaf players, it sounds like they came to the defense of Marner and were pissed off at the tactics of the coach. But, that is the kind of power and hubris that Babcock had, and that he could do that with basically impunity. And that didn't get out until he was fired. Now, Akeem Alou, now this has nothing to do with Babcock, but Akeem Alou comes out yesterday, a former draft pick of I believe he was the Blackhawks. Yeah. I believe he's playing in Europe right now. He said, and I'll read the tweet. Not very surprising that things we're hearing about Babcock. Apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. Same sort of deal with his protege in YYC. His protege being Bill Peters, the current coach of the Calgary Flames. Dropped the N-bomb several times towards me in the dressing room in my rookie year because he didn't like my choice of music. First one to admit I rebelled against him. Wouldn't you? And instead of remedying the situation, he wrote a letter to John McDonough, who is the team president of the Chicago Blackhawks,
Right.
and Stan Bowman, the current GM, to have me sent to the ECHL. 20-year-old on pace for 20 goals in his first pro year with 0 power play, penalty killing time, was off to a great start in his pro career. And if you look at Akeem Alou's record on HockeyDB, he's been with a number of AHL teams, ECHL teams, and like I said, now he's in Europe. This came out yesterday. It came out about 8 o'clock last night. In the span of less than 24 hours after the game in Pittsburgh, Brad Treliving had to come out and say there's going to be an investigation, that they were going to look into it. Peters did not meet with the media after a 3-2 loss to Pittsburgh. They traveled to Buffalo this morning. The NHL released a statement saying that if this is true, that the conduct is repugnant and there is no defense for it. Peters did not lead the practice in Buffalo, and Treliving had to come out again and say, although he hasn't been fired, that investigation, and there were reports, Jeff Merrick from Sportsnet said he was told by some sources that Peters had been fired. It does sound, Russ, like it's going in that direction, because if he's not leading the practice and they're continuing an investigation, and Frank Cervelli of TSN apparently talked to 2 players who played with Alou on that team, and they confirmed the allegations that Peters used those racial slurs in front of Alou. And now it's unclear whether he directed them towards Alou or was referring to the music, but it doesn't really matter. If you're
really, at that point, you're talking semantics. And
yeah, if you're dropping an N-bomb in front of a black player, then excuse me, that's going beyond the pale, to use a
yeah. I mean, why couldn't he just shut the music off and say, I don't like it?
Right. He's the coach. He could do it. But
right.
I mean, Russ, it's weird how the firing of one prominent coach has sort of snowballed into something like this. And it does sound like Peters is going to lose his job. And I saw a tweet from Daniel Carcillo, who, is along the same line sometimes as Mike Commodore when it comes to colorful commentary about,
he's a little more sensible though.
Yeah, he is a little more sensible, but he said this is the tip of the iceberg, and there will be other things that come out about other current coaches in the league. I mean, this could snowball.
Listen, I fully expect to hear more, see more. We're quick. Sometimes people are too quick to react. You have to really take it all in. I remember offline telling you yesterday, well, let's see if this gets corroborated, and it did. So, once it gets corroborated, then yes, you've got a problem. And if we hear about more of these situations, I don't feel bad for a coach losing a job if this is the case. I feel bad for the players that had to endure, because sometimes it changes their careers. And so that part is what I feel bad for. I don't feel bad for anybody. Like I said, what Babcock was doing was old school psychological baloney. And, that stuff went out in the 60s, I thought. But again, I called him a dinosaur for the last couple of months, and he's been a dinosaur for longer than that. So if more of this comes out, then you know what? People have it's these people's truths, and they have a right to bring it up.
Okay, here you go. Cervelli further reports, this is posted 9 minutes ago on Twitter, former Canes defenseman Michael Jordan, or I think I'm not sure if he pronounces it Jordan.
No, it's Jordan, same name.
But confirms to TSN that there were multiple physical altercations between Bill Peters and players in Carolina. Quote to Jordan, "He kicked me pretty hard in the back during a game," Jordan said. "Even the trainers and the other guys saw it." He's done. He's toast.
Yeah, he's not going to come out of this. I think what Calgary's trying to do is slow it down and make sure they do due diligence, but also make sure they get out of Buffalo without having to say anything. I think, when is the game? Is it tonight?
It's tomorrow night.
Tomorrow. By tomorrow, I think you'll see like one of the assistants in there.
Yeah.
And
by tomorrow, you'll see a new head coach, or at least a new interim coach. And I was planning on going to that game, and now I'm definitely going to go because it's.
Yeah.
But the thing is that, I mean, there was talk about Peters getting fired for hockey reasons. But this is a team that was number 1 in the Western Conference last year, lost in the first round, but had a successful season. They have players on that roster who were, I would describe as Peters players, like Elias Lindholm and Noah Hannafin, who he coached in Carolina and had some success in Calgary last year. This really is, this is going to be an upheaval for that Flames team if they indeed fire Peters in the next few hours.
The key is getting fired is one thing. Will he get another head coaching hockey job is another thing.
Well, and that's the question here. And I want to make it painfully clear that I'm not connecting Babcock to any of the things that occurred with Alou or Peters, because Babcock was not involved. He was in Detroit. The only thing that Babcock is involved in this situation is that he hired Peters as an assistant after he was a head coach in Rockford, and then he went on to coach Carolina and Calgary. So it would be guilt by association if you associated Babcock with this situation.
Right.
That being said, the Babcock revelation regarding Marner, Jeff O'Neill, a former player, basically talking yesterday on Toronto radio that he had talked to 5 players and that had been former Babcock, that had played under Babcock, that essentially they said, and it's easy to pile on, and I'm not piling on, but I'm reporting what somebody else said.
Sure.
That O'Neill said that Babcock was a great coach and a terrible human being. So we've
heard that before, but not with anything to back it up, really.
Right. We've both heard stories about his tenure in Detroit and about accusing players. This is the stuff in Toronto is consistent with that. There's people are being critical of the media of not reporting it until now. Well, A, it may not have been confirmed until now, and B, again, you're reporting things like that at your own peril if you do that. So, I mean, I understand
what journalism is, so sometimes you have to.
Right, but I'm wondering the same question that you asked about Peters, if that's the case with Babcock. I mean, we know Babcock is, has a great reputation as a head coach, will be a Hall of Famer. He won Olympic gold medals, World Cup of Hockey, Stanley Cup. But there is a certain point where older coaches, you reach their level in terms of not being in tune with younger players. At a certain point, Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler were not effective college coaches because Woody Hayes punched a player, so he lost it. But you know what I'm saying? Like at a certain point, they reach their, best by date.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to be very hard for Mike Babcock to get a job next year. I do, and it wouldn't shock me if he goes jobless next year, at least to start this off. Same with Bill Peters. I don't think he's going to walk into another job anytime soon either.
Yeah, honestly, I know that the reports are out there that the accusations are true. Until he is fired, I'm just going to say if the accusations are true, if he acted that way, he will never coach in the NHL again.
I think there's a very good chance of that. I do. And I think that's why the due diligence. But with these stories continuing to break in pretty good regularity, the speed of these are actually what you would expect them to break at. So,
but that to me that's the most surprising thing is it's.
Hold on, I'm going to give you the or.
Okay.
Is it because it's not Mike Babcock that the speed of these are breaking quicker? I think there's something to that.
Maybe. I mean, it is less than 24 hours.
Because let's face it, if we're just going on name alone, Bill Peters is not a big name.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
not that it makes any difference, but I'm just saying in the reporting process, it's amazing how this stuff is coming out 100 times faster than the other story, which took 2 years.
Yeah. So we will track this. I'm sure if there is a finality to this situation.
Tomorrow's game, I'm sure something will happen before tomorrow's game.
Yeah, I would be surprised because right now the NHL and the Flames are at least making the appearance of a full, fair, and lengthy investigation.
I give the NHL credit because that's the statement they put out was getting ahead of it.
Yes,
from their perspective, and that was good.
Yes. No, I agree. I think they made no bones about the fact that if these accusations are true, that they're, as they said, repugnant.
Right.
So I think they did successfully get in front of them, and now we'll see what happens, and we'll see if what Dan Carcillo said is true, that this is the first, that there's going to be a snowball effect here, and if it is, I mean, the coaching landscape in this league could change dramatically in a very short time. But we'll continue to look out for that. All right, start with some of the games last night, and I watched some of this game. I missed the event that we're going to talk about right now, but the Sabres continue to struggle. They are now 2-8-2, so that's 10 losses in the last 12 games. After losing 5-2 to the Lightning. They were up 2-1 in the second period in that game. Jimmy Vesey scored his first goal of the year, and the Lightning scored 4 consecutive goals, unanswered goals, to win the game, including 2 shorthanded goals in the same 2-minute minor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Lightning are starting to get back on track. They're still outside of the playoffs looking in, but they seem to be, even without Stamkos, they seem to be getting back on the winning ways. I think they, in spite of the fact that they were out in the first round, it's almost like they had a Stanley Cup hangover in a way, because they just really didn't start the season with any kind of verve. But the Eric Cernak hit on Rasmus Dahlin is being reviewed by the league. This is important for the Sabres, because if Dahlin is an important part of this team, and if he has a concussion history, that could be a big loss for the Sabres.
Yeah, I have not seen where Cernak has been suspended recently in the NHL.
I don't think he has.
He has an international play, however. I don't care that he doesn't have any priors, because we all know what kind of player he is. There was no reason to elbow the guy in the head in that play.
Right.
There really isn't. I mean, I just want to say it bluntly. If you can't cover Rasmus Dahlin, that's your problem. If that's the only way that you could slow him down or get him to give up the puck, then hit him in the chest. I mean, you don't have to hit him in the head. I would like to see 5 games here, but we won't see that.
No,
I see 1 or 2 games, and that's not right, but that's what's going to happen.
I put this in the same category, like I talked about yesterday with Bertuzzo, in the sense that we all know what type of defenseman Cernak is. He's big. You've got a bunch of, Hedman is a skilled defenseman, but he can play a rough and tumble game if he needs to, because he's 6'7". Shattenkirk and McDonough are not really physical guys. Cernak is there because he's big and because he can throw his weight around. And if he doesn't do that, he probably isn't in the NHL. So that's his job description. That's like, you must do this. That's Bertuzzo's job description. He's a bottom pairing defenseman. You need to be an intimidator. You need to clear the front of the net and make sure that if a player does go to the front of the net, he knows not to go there again. And that's why he slammed Arvidsson into the net and then cross-checked him across the back. Mm-hmm. Like I said yesterday, I mean, it almost is an investment in the future of your career, even though you got suspended for 4 games, because Bertuzzo will be attractive to teams that are looking for that physical type of defenseman, because he is physical.
Now, was Cernak kicked out of the game for that or no?
I think he only got a 2-minute penalty, but I'll check the. Yeah, I don't know. I only saw it after the fact. I'm looking here.
That's another thing, again, that we have to go back and talk to is clearly something went on. Let's see.
He did not get penalized, period.
Okay. So again, we have replay.
Right.
When you see a player down like that, and you maybe ask somebody in the ice what happened, and they say he elbowed him in the head, you should immediately check the replay.
Right.
I don't understand why you cannot do that. Because again, otherwise, think of the advantage Tampa had by just taking out Buffalo's best defenseman. And with no repercussion. None.
None.
Like,
and it's
ridiculous.
And it's ironic because last night was Zach Bogosian's first game back. They finally got all their defensemen back, and now Dahlin gets hurt, and it's a concussion, so it could be a long-term thing. So it just
this is a targeted headshot. It should be 5 games. It really should be.
Even if Cernak has no,
it doesn't matter. I don't care.
Even if he isn't a recidivist. But
now, if they would have kicked him out of the game, I'd say, all right, give him 4 because at least they did the right thing in the game. They didn't even do the right thing in the game.
No. And Bada Bing in the chat says Sabres suck and Mike is happy. No, I'm not happy because the Sabres suck. I'm happy because I predicted they would suck and I'm right. I just think that there's a.
I heard the Bada Bing went out of business, but
yeah, there's a level, and there's a I do Buffalo radio. I've lived here my entire life. I have friends who are Sabre fans. There's a level of frustration in Buffalo right now about this team. They haven't made the playoffs in 8 years. They, I know that some people think, well, the mentality that the organization showed when they tanked. It's sort of the losing mentality, and that's sort of been pervasive since the tank year. And I'm like, no, it's not that. They got Jack Eichel, and that was the positive of the tank. The problem is everything they did afterward continued to have that team wallow, making bad trades for Evander Kane, signing free agents that were just not right, making trades that just didn't work. I mean, it's a number of things. I mean, the Leafs, for all the time, I know the trouble right now. They got Austin Matthews, and they made the playoffs 3 straight years. That was a successful tank.
Right.
So,
but I think, again, Buffalo didn't have as much to work with as the Leafs did. Management-wise, they were lacking. The Leafs at least hired top management before that. There's a lot of reasons why Buffalo's still not getting over the hump. And it's not all just because they didn't tank right, Right.
The Rangers beat the Wild 3-2 in overtime. I saw, again, bits of this game. Henrik Lundqvist made a fantastic save on Jason Zucker. Anthony DeAngelo
on that, Mike. Is that right?
What's that?
I heard he made a high glove save. Is that correct?
Yes. That was painfully illustrated on NHL Network ad nauseum for over 5 minutes. It's great to show that, yes, Henrik Lundqvist has the proper technique to hold the glove high. I don't need to be talked to like I'm a 6-year-old to say, hey, kids, this is how you hold your glove up. Sorry to the guys at NHL Network. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm a snob when it comes to TV broadcast. I like give the people the credit that they actually know the game that they're watching. Now, Anthony DeAngelo or Tony DeAngelo, I don't know what he prefers, but he scored the winner in overtime. This is. I mean, Kreider with a goal and Brady Shea with a goal. I told you I like the Rangers going into the season. They started this season slow, but I think they're climbing back into the race. I think they will challenge for a wild card spot.
I think in the end they might. I think this is the starting of the gelling for them, and Mika Zibanejad is coming back now, so he's going to get inserted, which is massive. Massive for the power play because that's another great shot. Massive because he's the number 1 center. It moves everybody down. A lot of good reasons. DeAngelo, like we talked about, I mean, an amazing value. I will divulge that I did bet somebody that he would get 35 points. They took that bet. They're going to lose that bet because he's already more than halfway. He's almost halfway there. And it's really, I mean, again, a testament to him and the Rangers for fitting him in under the cap. I hope they take care of him next year. But getting back to the team, Panarin's been a wild success. Hedl has been really good since getting called up again. There's a lot of things going their way. Kakko is doing okay. Like, he could do better, but he's a rookie. You don't never know how that's going to go. But right now, Lundqvist is playing great. He's now 5th on the all-time list. He's going to play again next game. So, if this is Lundqvist's last great season, or he's getting close to having those last two, they could make a little run. I don't think it's going to go very far, but next year could be a year that they're setting up for, where if Lundqvist's play doesn't fall off much and they still have an excellent backup, whether it's Georgiev or Shesterkin, this team could do something, because they do now have guys that they can count on to score. They do have guys defensively. Adam Fox is a wild success. I mean, you're never going to see a ton of points, but if you want to talk about the ultimate and calm, smart defenseman, he's been it. And Brady Shea now is starting to play again like he did a couple of years ago, so people are happier about that. Eric Stahl might not be the happiest guy right now, but they're on a pretty good run here.
Thomas Smith in the chat, this might be scary enough situation for Cernak to take stock. The Lightning have Cal Foote in Syracuse. Maybe Cernak can be moved. I mean, Cal Foote, let's just say this. Shattenkirk's on a 1-year deal. Cal Foote will be on the team next year. They like Cernak. Cernak he's big, and he's, remember, this is a team that liked Andre Schuster for years. So,
all right, let's rephrase that. John Cooper
yes.
Like Cernak. If Cooper's not there to start next year, Cernak might not be either.
Right. There'll be a change in philosophy, and some of the favorites that they've locked themselves into that have been Cooper favorites. Remember, some of these guys like Palat and Killorn and Tyler Johnson were members of the 2012 Norfolk Admirals Calder Cup team that Cooper coached. And they've been with him all the way in Tampa. So these are guys he trusts. These are guys who he's comfortable with. That probably is not going to be the case if Cooper is not the coach there. So that would change. Now, you were at the game last night in Philly. The Flyers beat the Canucks 2-1. Josef Voracek with a goal in the third period on a bad angle, beating Thatcher Demko.
Justin Braun made a real nice play behind the net, and Voracek really put out a great one-timer, like just a bullet. Big play.
Canucks only had 17 shots on goal, and I think I heard it this morning that this was like the 8th loss in 10 games for them. I mean,
I don't know how many losses like it is in 10 games, but they did only have that fewer shots. There's a lot of things that went on in this game. So the Flyers played like their perfect defensive game, where everybody had the active stick going, and they kept everything to the outside. That said, early in the game, there were some great chances for Pettersson and Besser, and like Pettersson missed the net. He didn't have a shot on net, and he missed the net twice, I think. He didn't have a shot on net, and he didn't have a point, and it's only happened twice this year, right? So it just shows how hard it is to contain him, and for the longest time, the Flyers couldn't contain him. I spoke to him after the game, and like he said, this was not a great game for us. The Flyers did play really good defense, but Pettersson knew he's got to bury those shots, or at least one of them, when he gets those chances early, because in this kind of league, when things start clamping down defensively, that's what's going to happen. The other thing is Thatcher Demko played great, and we've talked about him this year. He was the 3rd star in the game. He was terrific. He made some massive saves. There was one in the third period that was really great. Like, this is a good spot for Vancouver goalie-wise. They're in good shape goalie-wise. They just have to get their defense straight. Edler played, right, but he had his bell rung the other day, so I don't know if he didn't have a full concussion. Obviously, we wouldn't be playing. So that's a situation where he probably wasn't at his best. Flyers had good moments. They did, but you know what? What bothered me in this game is you could hear the sound of the active stick thwarting away chances. And honestly, there was probably like 3 great scoring chances for Vancouver in the game, and 5 or 6 for the Flyers. The rest was, let's prevent everything. And I kind of want the league to open up a little more than that. I do.
We sort of touched on the Penguins game. They won 3-2 over Calgary.
Jake, for that, do we know?
For
Penguins.
For the Penguins, or for Calgary, it was Rittich. I'm checking right now to see who was for the Penguins. It was Tristan Jarry.
Jarry's stock is going up.
Right. I mean, that's why I understand why it was floated out there that Jerry or DeSmith might be shopped by the Penguins. Let's just say this. I don't think it's going to be Jerry, because the thing is, the Matt Murray, like John Gibson in the West, has trouble staying healthy. They're both great goaltenders, but they always get injured. That's why it's completely necessary for Pittsburgh to have 3 goaltenders on hand. They got DeSmith down through waivers. He's making over $1 million, but they need him. So I doubt that they trade one of them. And like you said, Jerry's interest. I think Jerry will be traded before expansion, because I think he could be a number 1 for somebody else. The Blue Jackets win 1-0 over the Senators. I was unfortunately forced to watch a lot of this game.
Why were you forced, Mike?
Well, because I had NHL Network on, and they were doing sort of the red zone type thing, and they kept coming back to this game, even though it was a complete and utter bore. The one goal, I think it was Bjorkstrand that scored the only goal of the game, and it was a deflection. And the goaltender for Ottawa, I think it was Anderson, it was like through 5 people. So he had absolutely no chance. And that was the only goal of the game. So it wasn't exactly a great thing. You want to get your point, get your thoughts on this. The Zuccarello reception at Madison Square Garden last night, they gave him an ovation, and apparently it went so long that they couldn't start the play because they continued to cheer him loudly.
I mean, the fans love him. He's a great guy. He's Lundqvist's best friend. I don't know if he feels like he got a raw deal. I don't know if that's accurate. Would he like to be there? Sure. But I think he understood where things were going. I don't think he thought he got a raw deal. I think he appreciated with the fans, the love they showed him. He was always a fan favorite. I think it was great. I mean, that's, it's what you want fans to do. That's, the hope. And I'm sure Zuccarello appreciated that. I know they posted something with the Minnesota Wild feed. I'm sure he said something on Twitter or will. And that's cool. I think that's great.
The Nashville Predators beat the Blues 3-2 in a shootout. I saw a little bit of this game. And the one thing, Russ, that as soon as it happened, I'm like, this is something we're going to talk about tomorrow on the show. Predators were up 2-0. Blues come down the ice on a 2-on-1, and UC Saros makes a left pad save on David Perron and kicks it right to him. And Saros, being the shorter goaltender that he is, leaves the entire roof about a foot, and Perron roofs it past him. I mean, I think there's room in the NHL for a shorter goaltender, but I think he's got to probably be more of a stand-up guy than a guy who's going to flop around, because you can't, with these scorers and their ability to get the puck up quickly, you cannot leave the top of the net, especially very.
It only takes one of these a game for you to lose a game, and Perron's just an absolute sniper when he's not concussed and healthy, right? He's shown that. He's got great hands, and so he was probably the worst player to do that too. So yeah, that's what I don't love about Saros, unfortunately, is. You're right. If he did stay upright more often, it probably would be better. He's not a great, like I said, they have a problem now goaltending wise. They are going to have to draft one this year. They're going to have to think about long term, who are they going to target after Pekka Rinne is gone, because Saros is not going to be the starter if he's even going to be there in 2 years,
Dallas wins 4-2 over the Vegas Golden Knights. Dallas has obviously been the hottest team in the league, and they got back Klingberg and they got back Rupe Hintz. So, I mean, after that 1-7-1 start, they have just been unconscious, and now they look like the team that everybody thought was the one that was going to contend for top spot in the Western Conference or in the Central.
Yeah, and Hintz was so hot early in the season that getting him back is a pretty big deal. So it's interesting. I mean, it is. They, believe it or not, that 7 wins ties the franchise record, and for consecutive wins. You would think it would be more than that with teams they have, and they've done it a few times at 7. So I guess 8's going to be the the big number. But again, we talked about it. Montgomery, they weren't going to fire him. They did the right thing. Neil was not going to do anything other than hold the line because he's a very even-keeled kind of guy. And the team came around because they had too good a personnel to keep losing. Mm-hmm. So that's smart. That's not reactionary. And that's not like, showing some analytics and saying, this is why we're losing and making moves as a result. I'm glad they didn't do anything.
Clearly, the New York Islanders suck because they lost yesterday.
Yeah, they're horrible.
their first game without a point in 17 straight, so they're terrible. Yep. They were shut out by John Gibson, 26 saves, shutout, 3-0. I didn't see a lot of this game. What I did see was Gibson get hurt early in the first period, and it looked like he took a shot, like sort of off of the body, where maybe his there was a crease or a gap in his. There's
probably not a lot of padding there,
right? And he got hit. And the thing was, he still had the awareness as he's laying prone on the ice that a shot came in, and he almost did something similar to Fleury and raised his glove and caught and froze it. It took him a long time to get back to the ice, but let's just say this.
He's a tough guy. He really is.
Yeah, I can't deny, obviously, I cannot deny the Islanders' streak that they, and the place that they are right now.
Be careful what you say, Mike. Every Islander fan watching the show is going to hold you to it. You know it. So.
But yeah. I still believe that they don't have enough offense to do any serious damage in the postseason if they make the postseason. I still think there's a chance they miss the playoffs. But this, when you go almost a quarter of a season getting points in every game, that puts you in a position where you're going to make me look like a fool. But
Morello's already getting on the keyboard. It's coming.
Yeah, Joe Morello. Yes, if he's around, I'm sure he's going to be dropping bombs on me here. One other game. The San Jose Sharks stay red hot. 9 of their last 10. They win 4-3 over the hapless LA Kings in overtime. Guy named Marlowe. I'm not sure I know him very well. He scored the game winner in overtime for the Sharks. Somebody made the point. I saw it on Reddit. It's like, well, the Sharks are 9-1 since Radim Semak came back. I mean, come on. It's Radim Semak that is responsible for this turnaround. Come on.
No, Marlowe's done well for them. I mean, we knew he would have a little bit of a lull. Hold on a second.
Well, this is the thing. Marlowe was not traded and bought out because he wasn't still an effective player. It was the contract. It was $6.25 million. At $700,000, which he signed for with San Jose, he's a bargain and a half. But at $6.25 million, with the Leafs having to pay Kapanen and Janssen and Marner and sign a few other people, they couldn't do it, and Carolina just wasn't going to keep him around with that kind of salary with their budgetary system. So I'm not surprised that Marlowe's having success. He wanted to go back. If he couldn't play in Toronto, he wanted to go back to San Jose. He wanted to play. His family is there. He's been effective. And like I said, it's all bang for the buck. At $700,000, he is a bargain. At $6.25, he wasn't.
Yeah, and it seems like now he's getting last couple of games his rightful hockey legs. Early on it was adrenaline, but he's got 10 points, 5 goals, 5 assists. That's good, man. I mean, that's just enough boost with having him in the room, being smart, doing all those other things, traveling on the road. It's really helping the team. And
providing secondary offense. That's what they need.
And, for all the talk, their goaltending issues have calmed down at least temporarily. Things are looking better for them. I mean, I know people didn't think it was going to happen and it wasn't possible.
Well, I mean, it's funny because now after 25 games and going 4-10-1, they're now 13-11-1, and they're in the second wild card. They're the only team in the playoffs right now with a negative goal differential. But
he got smarter, though.
Oh, he did. Did he?
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, it's just for all those people that wanted him fired, they weren't going to fire him. He's had too much success the last few years. He was going to get the season, and this is why you give a coach the season.
The guy made the conference final last year.
I know.
Just like Jim Montgomery in his first year makes the second round. You're not going to fire him after 1 year unless he's just unless there's dissension going on in Dallas, and there wasn't.
Right. I mean, so this is when I see these kinds of things, I always take it with a grain of salt from fans and say, all right, look, I get it. It's frustration. But Sharks fans now, I mean, after these 25 games, now you could look at the team and say, all right, let's see what they are. And that's going to, going forward, it's still going to be about their goaltending because they have enough of everything else. And that really is the one thing that can derail them. Mm-hmm. Right now, Jones is still at an 891, but he got off to such a bad start, but he is 10-8.
Right.
So whatever that's worth.
All right, we'll take a couple questions here. Richard Petrosky in the chat. Our team's inquiring about Hogg on the Flyers. Is this a showcase?
Well, I was told there's no such thing as showcasing, but we're not exactly in those words. But I do believe that that's what's going on. I do believe Shaden Gostisbehere will be in the next game. Hogg had a good game yesterday. Tampa was there again. Calgary was there again.
So if this is a non-existent showcase, then it was an effective non-existent showcase.
Correct. Either way, it was effective. But I do think it was a showcase.
Okay, Funky in the chat with Anthony Mantha out long-term with a knee injury. Do you guys see Yzerman making another trade? No.
He wants to sink to the bottom. Why? And stay there.
Right. This is, in a way, and I'm not saying he's
don't go there.
I don't think he's taking pleasure in Anthony Mantha's demise or his injury, but this is good news. He wants to be in the Alexis Lafreniere Cup.
Clayton Byfield, either one.
Byfield or whoever. It's like, I'm sorry. So, he's going to trade his pending UFAs. He's going to get younger.
He's going to do the best he can to have the worst record he can.
Right. Now he's not going to, he doesn't have to tank.
No.
He sucks already.
No, you trade a few players at the deadline, it'll all happen naturally.
Right. Exactly. Jerkball TO, I love the name. If the Leafs have 9 coaches and 22 players on the ice, how is anything executed? All right. I was there yesterday. They had a lot of coaches on the ice. Development coaches, skill coaches.
This was a skill practice, right?
Yesterday they split into 2 groups. They had forwards on one pad, defense on the other. The injured players were skating before that. And then they had a full team, not even scrimmage, but a full team like line rushes, defensive rushes. They apparently did the same thing today. I don't have a problem with this because I think right now, because of the coaching change, you're essentially, it's almost a training camp scenario. They're learning what tendencies that Keefe has that are different than Babcock. And I'm sure that there are a number of differences. I missed it yesterday, but apparently they had a phrase on the locker room. Something like it's a right, not or it's a privilege, not a right, or right, not a privilege. One of those sayings that they motivational sayings. That saying was gone because that was a Babcock thing. So there's going to be a number of changes that are going on in that team that are going to happen over the next days and weeks, and they're going to get away from some of the things that Babcock liked.
Yeah, and right now, that's what they have to do because they had the advantage of getting some practice time in, which is hard to find in the NHL. I give them credit for not, going easy on the guys, but saying, hey, look, like you said, this is a reset here. We've got to do it my way here now. Things are changing. This is great for the Leafs. This is a real, breath of fresh air, fresh start for them. Doesn't mean they're going to beat Boston, but I think if they faced Boston, I'd feel a little better about it now. I know some may not because Babcock's not in there, but Babcock proved he couldn't do anything against Boston.
Well, I can't guarantee they're going to be better than they were under Babcock. I know that the players will probably be playing more relaxed and more.
Yeah.
I think that team was built to play a certain way, and Babcock's way was not that certain way. So now we'll find out whether they can play and win that certain way.
Yep.
So I mean, it should be interesting. Now, 3 games tonight. The highlight of the schedule tonight is not the Wild and the Devils. It's the Bruins and the Canadiens.
Well, why do you have to hate, Mike?
No, I'm just saying. I'm just being sarcastic.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure there's going to be at least 12 people in the crowd at the Rock to see Bruce Boudreau and the Minnesota Wild. The return of Zach Parise to New Jersey. No, I mean Bruins Canadiens. They hate each other with a passion. Bruins will be without Bergeron.
Is it a load management situation?
They say he's out the next 2 games, so I don't know.
Sounds like load management to me, or a load.
Like it sounds like a load of management,
right?
But Byron and Drouin are out for Montreal, so maybe that sort of balances the books.
Yeah, it was a shame. Byron's out on my fantasy team too. I had to trade a first rounder for Lindblom, so that's what I did to get my team, keep my team competitive.
Bada bing with the last question here. Mike, do you stuff the turkey? Well, coincidentally, bada bing, I did make the stuffing, although I do learn that if it's not stuffed in the turkey, it's not stuffing, it's dressing. If it's stuffed in the turkey, then it's stuffing.
Right. I don't like it stuffed in the turkey. I don't do it. I'm the turkey maker in my house. I don't like it that way.
Well, okay, I'll say this. I used to love the stuffing from inside the turkey, but after doing the turkey and basting it and all the stuff, and I want the clean stuffing that's not been like soaked in turkey fat.
Yeah, what I'm saying.
Yes,
I'm with you on that.
Yes, Funky Cold Sedina says Mike celebrates Thanksgiving at the Anchor Bar. No, I don't.
Yes, he does.
No, I don't want to be murdered.
Mike, what year was the Anchor Bar in existence?
I think it's been in existence since the 60s at least.
What year, though?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I looked it up. 1964 in March. That's their anniversary. We're going to celebrate that.
Okay. We're going to celebrate by driving by it as we go to the place with better wings.
By the way, I noticed today, because I looked up the Anchor Bar for whatever reason, I can't remember why, that they actually had a location in Manhattan that didn't last very long. But they did. They had it in 2018. They had a Manhattan location.
I was shocked to hear that. That's funny because I know there's an Anchor Bar location in Niagara Falls that every time I drive through Niagara Falls.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't see any cars there, so I don't know how successful it is. They have another location out on Transit Road, which is a deep in the suburbs. There
was one at the rest stop.
There's one at the Buffalo Airport too.
Yeah, but there's one. I saw an Anchor Bar at a rest stop. I don't remember why I was there, where I was, but
was it next to a Kenny Rogers Chicken?
I think there's still one Kenny Rogers Chicken left. Hold on, I think there's actually.
Tell me, fans, tell me, people in the chat, if you've heard this story before. I have a friend. I won't say who it is because I don't want to embarrass him. Who would drive to a rest stop on the thruway that was 2.5 hours away because he liked. It wasn't Popeyes, but I think it was Kenny Rogers or one of the chicken chains. He would drive there to get chicken because that was the only place within, like, say, 500 miles that he would go.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not driving that far for friggin' chicken.
So it looks like, you know how you see like Nathan's and other places in like the those like Miami Subs malls, they have those little food courts.
Yeah.
They have like Miami Subs and that. Somebody bought Kenny Rogers Roasters that way, and so it does exist that way.
That's like crispy. There are no Krispy Kreme donut locations in Buffalo anymore. There used to be, but they sell Krispy Kreme donuts in every 7-Eleven in Buffalo.
Huh. Actually, so there may be a Kenny Rogers Roaster in China, Philippines, and Malaysia. It's hard to tell if they're still around.
Well, you got to know when to hold them.
The website is still active, by the way.
and when to fold them.
Yes, they are. Hold on. This is great. They won the Malaysia Creme de la Creme food brand in 2013. That's a big award right there.
Great. Yes, and their new accoutrement with the fried chicken. It's not, you can get fries, you can get mashed potatoes, or you can get deep fried locusts.
They did win a Asia Most Admired Food Brand in 2014.
Okay, we gotta end this.
They're still around, man.
God. For Russ Cohen, we'll be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the